guys, welcome back to WMMA Scene Now with your host Chuck Stevenson. Today we're coming at you with a fight review. We are going all the way to UFC on ESPN2, Barboza versus Gaethje. That's happening this Saturday, March 30th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my home state, as you can see on the shirt. We have Michelle, the Karate Hottie Waterson, taking on Karolina Kowalkiewicz in a strawweight fight between two top 10 ranked fighters. Before we go into each fighter and break them down, let's look at some stats here. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, they're both the same age, 33 years old. Kowalkiewicz sports a 12-3 record. Waterson sports a 16-6 record. Now, looking at each fighter's record, each fighter is 2-1 in their last 3 fights. Now, Kowalkiewicz, of course, is coming off a knockout loss to Jessica Andrade in her last fight 6 months ago. Before that, she had 2 decision wins over Jodie Esquibel and Felice Herrig, respectively. Waterson, on the other hand, dropped a bout to Tecia Torres a little over a year ago, and then followed that up with 2 decision wins over Courtney Casey and Felice Herrig, respectively. Height. Both of these fighters are the same height, 5 feet, 3 inches tall. Now, in the reach, Kowalkiewicz sports a 2-inch reach advantage at 64 inches to Waterson's 62 inches. So now that we've looked a little bit at both of these fighters, let's break down them individually. Let's start with Kowalkiewicz. Kowalkiewicz's strengths. She has very strong knees in the clinch, as evidenced in a lot of her, really any number of her fights, but 2 that really come to mind are shared opponent with Waterson, Felice Herrig. Every time she got in the clinch, she was landing knees. And also against Rose Namajunas. If you watch that fight with Rose Namajunas, Kowalkiewicz basically sucked the spirit out of her with the knees in the clinch. I had Rose ahead after the first round, but in the second round, and then especially in the third, Kowalkiewicz was able to get into the clinch often, and every time she just landed knee after knee after knee, usually like 2 to 3 knees at least every time they clinched. And then another thing, also in the clinch, Kowalkiewicz lands some really nice elbows. But the knees, they're just crushing. She gets into the clinch, and she just starts kneeing away. Kowalkiewicz also has what I feel is very underrated grappling. There have been several fights where people thought, oh, well, she'll get submitted here. Dating all the way back to her fight with Mizuki in Invicta, a lot of people thought she would get submitted by Mizuki. Against Rose Namajunas, a lot of people were predicting that she would get submitted by Rose. To this date, only one fighter has submitted her, and that was Claudia Gadelha, and that was a couple years ago. Her submission, I think her grappling is just very underrated because of that, especially defensively. And then also, finally, Kowalkiewicz is willing to take a punch to give 3. Now, that didn't help her so much in the last fight against Andrade, but you got to remember, this is strawweight. There's very few fighters that punch as hard as Andrade. Honestly, I can't think of any that punch as hard as Andrade does. So, often that's helped Kowalkiewicz more than it's hurt her, obviously, because she's only lost by knockout 1 time, and she'll eat punches to get into that clinch to work her magic there. Keys to victory for Karolina Kowalkiewicz. First off, get to the clinch. That's where she does her best striking, so why waste time on the outside? Get to the clinch, start landing knees and elbows right away. Also, she needs to watch for the head and arm throw in the clinch. If you watch enough Michelle Waterson fights, you'll see she pretty much sticks to one takedown and one takedown only, the head and arm throw. If you can defend that, Waterson's not going to get you to the ground. Felice Herrig tried that takedown a bunch of times in their fight. I think she got it maybe like once. against Kowalkiewicz. And then finally, she needs to time counters off of Waterson's kicks. Waterson has a bad habit of overextending on some of her kicks, and it really hurt her, especially in the Namajunas fight, where she went to kick and she didn't get it. She overextended, and that's when Rose punched her a few times, pushed her, and kicked her and knocked her to the floor. So Kowalkiewicz needs to watch for those kicks and watch for the overextension, because Michelle almost always kicks with the lead leg, and she stands at a sideways stance, so it's very easy for her to overextend and get caught off balance. Okay, so now that we've looked at Karolina Kowalkiewicz, let's break down Michelle Waterson. So Waterson's strengths. First off, she has a diverse kicking game. She'll kick high, she'll kick low, she'll kick to the body, she'll throw those oblique kicks. Waterson loves to kick. They're her best strike. Her hands aren't bad, but they're nowhere near as good as her kicks. So that's what she'll utilize most often, probably against Karolina, especially on the outside. Waterson also has a very slick submission game. Almost all of her wins are by submission. The majority of her wins are by submission. I remember all the way back to when she defeated Jessica Penny by armbar. Not a lot of people saw that coming, especially I think that came in the 4th round, and she latched that armbar on so fast, Penny was tapping like pretty much instantly. So if she gets it to the ground, work the submission magic there, because like I said, she's slick. And then also Waterson's very quick. She's pretty fast. You know, even for a strawweight, she's pretty fast. I mean, she used to fight at atom weight. She was very fast there. That speed has translated very well into the strawweight division, and that'll help her a lot against Kowalkiewicz, who's slower, a little more plodding, doesn't always have the greatest footwork. So now we've looked over Waterson's strengths. Let's go over her keys to victory. Waterson needs to strike from the outside and avoid the clinch. Kowalkiewicz has her biggest weakness in striking is when her opponents are able to maintain distance. Rose Namajunas won the first round of their fight by sticking to the outside, not boxing her. Joanna Jędrzejczyk stayed on the outside practically the entire fight and was able to just outwork her from there. So if Waterson sticks to the outside, utilizing her kicks to keep distance, she can outwork her on the feet. Also, in order to outwork her on the feet, Waterson needs to utilize her footwork. She has good footwork, and it's probably 5 times better than Kowalkiewicz. So utilize that footwork to keep moving around and work those kicks. And then finally, she needs to look for those submission opportunities when the fight gets to the ground, if it gets to the ground. I mean, as I said, you know, her submission game is slick. She just needs to look for those opportunities. Don't rush them. Don't hurry them, because Kowalkiewicz is very good defensively, but she needs to look for those submission opportunities. I feel that is her best chance at finishing Kowalkiewicz, is to submit her. Alright guys, so that breaks down the fight and both of these fighters. Now, as to who my pick is. First of all, a little disclaimer here. I'm a huge mark for both of these fighters. I've been following Michelle's career for roughly a decade. Kowalkiewicz, ever since she came to Invicta for 1 or 2 fights, and her entire UFC career. So I'm a big fan of both of these. As to who I think is going to win this fight, I had to think really hard on this one. And I'm going with Waterson by decision. And I chose Waterson because I'm just not confident that Kowalkiewicz fully recovered from that knockout loss to Andrade last year. Not sure I think she should have been given like maybe one more tune-up fight after that. You know, the UFC doesn't like to do that, but I think it's needed when someone suffers a knockout loss. So that's the biggest reason why I picked Waterson to win. Also, I just don't trust Kowalkiewicz's camp. anymore. She doesn't seem to have evolved much in her game over the last few years. Very little evolution to Kowalkiewicz's game. So for this one, I'm going with Michelle Waterson by unanimous decision. Again, I wouldn't, although I'll never count out Karolina, because she's been counted out in a lot of fights, and she finds ways to win, particularly against the current champ Rose Namajunas. Very few people are giving her a chance there. Again, this is one of those fights where I hate to see either fighter lose, because, like I said earlier, I'm a huge fan of both of them. But I'm going to go with Michelle Waterson by unanimous decision. I don't see her getting a title shot off of this like she hopes, though. So that's my breakdown of this fight, guys, and my prediction. Let me know what you think, your predictions for the fight, and what do you think about this video in the comments down below, of course. And what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts platform on YouTube. Guys, see you Saturday night.